Okay, so Unit 7, Lesson 1 continued. We're still talking about factoring, but this time we're looking at still standard form because we're factoring ax squared plus bx plus c. But this time we're looking when a is not equal to 1, meaning I'm going to have some number in front of x squared, whatever it may be. How do I tackle that? How do I factor in that situation? So again, let's jump right in and look at an example. So let's say I want to solve 3x squared minus 7x minus 6 equals 0. So notice now I have a value in front of x squared. So what am I going to do with that? So our first step is going to be take the first term and multiply it times the last. So 3x squared times negative 6 gives me negative 18x squared. Now again, same thing as what we were looking at when a was equal to 1. I want to find the pair of factors that when I multiply them together, I get negative 18x squared. And when I add them together, I get negative 7x. So I'm going to come off to the side real quick, negative 18x squared. And I'm going to list out the factors. So what do I multiply together that gives me x squared? It should be x times x. So I know all my factors should have an x. Now dealing with my number, it's negative 18, so to get a negative, I know I need a positive number and a negative number. I'm looking for the positive and negative number that are going to give me negative 7. So again, I'm going to start with the smallest value, which would be 1. I know 1 times 18 is 18, so negative 1 times 18 is negative 18. And again, I could have the positive 1 and negative 18. Now I'm going to go through, all right, 1 goes into 18, 2 goes into 18, so I could have negative 2 and 9, or 2 and negative 9. 3 goes into 18, so I could have negative 3 and 6, or 3 and negative 6. 4 doesn't go into 18, 5 doesn't go into 18, 6 goes into 18, but that's already in my list, so I know I'm done because I've started over. So these are all the possible pairs that multiply together give me negative 18, and they should all have x's. Okay. All of these numbers multiply together give me negative 18x squared, and I want to find the pair now that add together to give me negative 7x. So starting at the top, negative 1 plus 18, that's not negative 7, so I'll cross that out. 1 minus 18, that's negative 17, it's not going to help me, cross that out. Negative 2 plus 9, that's positive 7, I need negative 7, so that's not going to work. 2x plus negative 9x, 2 plus negative 9, that's negative 7, so this is the pair that I need. Now, we're going to set this up. I'm going to replace negative 7x with the 2x and the negative 9x. And I'm going to put the bigger number first. We're going to disregard the sign for a moment. I know it's negative, but don't look at the negative. Just look at the number, the 2 and the 9. The bigger number is going to go first. So I'm going to rewrite this as 3x squared. Bigger number is 9, so minus 9x plus 2x minus 6 equals 0. Negative 9x plus 2x gives me negative 7x. So all I did was rewrite this. Now we're going to use a form of factoring called grouping. So I'm going to take the first two and the last two, and we're going to look at what do the terms in the first set of parentheses, what do they have in common? Now, the numbers, they're both divisible by 3, so I'm going to pull a 3 out. And they both have an x. This has 2 x's, this has 1, so I can pull a single x out. Now, when we pull these out or factor them out, it's the opposite of distributing. So I'm thinking, what do I multiply 3x by? That gives me 3x squared minus 9x. Or you can divide 3x squared minus 9x by 3x. So if I divide, 3 divided by 3 is 1. X squared divided by x is just x. One of the x's cancels out. Now minus, because I have a minus sign, 9 divided by 3 is 3. And x divided by x is 1. So there we go. I end up with x minus 3. And now I'm going to do the same thing with the second set of parentheses. What do these two values have in common? And they are both divisible by 2. So I'm going to pull out a positive 2. They're both divisible by 2, so I'm going to divide them by 2. 2x divided by 2 leaves me with x, and negative 6 divided by 2 leaves me with negative 3. Now, if you notice, what's inside the parentheses are the same, or they should be if we did it correctly. So what's inside the parentheses is one of my factors. So I'm going to take out x minus 3. What's left over, the things that we factored out, I'm going to put them together, and that will form my second factor. So I'll have 3x plus 2, and still it's equal to 0. And now I have it factored just like we did in the first video when a was equal to 1. Once I have it factored, I'll set them both individually equal to 0 and solve for x. So x minus 3 equals 0, and 3x plus 2 equals 0. This one, add 3 to both sides, and I get x is equal to 3. This one's got a couple of steps, so I'll subtract 2 from both sides. I get 3x equals negative 2. And divide both sides by 3. I get x equals negative 2 divided by 3. This answer is reduced completely, so these are my two solutions, or roots, or zeros, or x-intercepts, whatever you would like to call them. All right, so one more example of that. So again, I want to solve, and I have f of x is equal to 12x squared plus 11x minus 5. And so I'm wanting to solve 12x squared plus 11x minus 5 equals to 0. I have a value in front of x squared, so I need to multiply the first times the second, multiply the two together, and I get negative 60x squared. Now I'm looking for the factors of negative 60x squared that when I add them together, I get positive 11. If this value is negative, after I multiply them together, then I know that one of my factors has to be positive and one has to be negative. So again, I'm going to start with the smallest value. The smallest number I know that goes into negative 60 is 1. So I could have negative 1 and 60, or positive 1 and negative 60. The next value is 2. So I could have negative 2 and 30, or 2 and negative 30. So I'll go to 3. 3 definitely goes into 60, so I could have negative 3 and 20, or 3 and negative 20. So now I'll go to 4. 4 goes into 60 15 times, so I could have negative 4 and 15, or positive 4 and negative 15. Going on, 5 will go into 60, so I could have negative 5 and 12, or 5 and negative 12. I know this is a lot. Some of them get crazy. Keep going. 6. 6 goes into negative 60 10 times, so I could have negative 6 and 10, or 6 and negative 10. 7 won't go into 60. 8 won't go into 60. 9 won't go into 60. 10 goes into 60, but it's already in my list, so I know I'm done now. Listed all of my factors out. And so remember what I'm looking for. I want the pair that when I add them together, I get positive 11. Negative 1 plus 60, that's definitely not positive 11. 1 minus 60, that's not 11. Negative 2 plus 30, that's not 11. 2 plus negative 30, that's still not 11. Negative 3 plus 20, that's 17. I'm getting closer, but still not quite it. 3 plus negative 20, negative 17, so not it. Negative 4 plus 15, negative 4 plus 15 is 11. So these are the two values that I want. Remember, I have the x squared, so this is negative 4x and positive 15x. And I want to take the larger value. Don't look at the signs, just the numbers themselves. The bigger one will go first. So I'm going to rewrite this as 12x squared. The bigger number is 15, so plus 15x, minus 4x, minus 5 equals 0. And I'm going to look at the first two terms at what they have in common. I'm going to look at the numbers and then the letters. 12 and 15 are both divisible by 3, so I'll pull a 3 out. This has x squared is 2x's, x is 1x, so I can pull a single x out. And now I'm going to divide to see what I have left over. 12 divided by 3 gives me 4. X squared divided by x is x, plus, because I have this plus sign. 15 divided by 3 is 5. And x divided by x is 1. So I'm left with 4x plus 5. And now I'll do the same thing to these two terms. And remember my goal, what I need, what's inside these parentheses needs to be the same as what's inside the other set of parentheses. These are both positive, these are both negative, so I can take a negative 1 out. Negative 4x divided by negative 1 is positive 4x. Negative 5 divided by negative 1 is positive 5. And it's still equal to 0. So now that I have it factored, what's inside the parentheses is the same, so I'll take that as one of my factors. And what I factored out will be my other factors. So 3x minus 1 equals 0. Now that I have it factored, I'm going to take each factor and set them individually equal to 0 and solve. So on this first one, I'll subtract 5 and divide by 4, so I get x equals to negative 5 over 4. This first one, I'll add 1 and divide by 3, so I get x is equal to 1/3. Both of my fractions are reduced, so these are my solutions. And there we go, I factored. Just takes practice. You do have an in-class activity, and your homework is in the hub. Y'all have a great day. Bye-bye.